Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today. I'm Precious Ameg, and I am currently a supply chain and operations major at Georgia State University. This interview is part of my business and communication course, but more importantly, it's for me to learn from somebody who's in the experienced professional field that I want to be in. Also, I followed your professional background. Um, I was especially impressed when you moved from mechanical engineering to supply chain engineering because I also moved from engineering to supply chain engineering.
Good to know.
Yeah. Also, what was it called? I was impressed with your dedication to teaching others too. So I appreciate your willingness to share your experience with me today. I have on my other side of my screen notes, so I'm taking notes during this recording. So thank you. Could I ask the first question? I can ask the first question.
Sure, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me and giving this opportunity. It's a privilege for me also to interact with the young generation supply chain professionals, share my experience. So pleasure to be here. Yeah, please go ahead and uh, ask your questions.
Okay. Can you walk with me through your career journey from mechanical engineering to demand planning?
Yes, indeed. So it's a long story, coming from mechanical engineering to supply chain. Earlier, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. I remember in my final year of my college, I went for an internship in an automotive industry, Tata Motors, in nearby here. And that was my first exposure to the industry. I worked with the assembly line, understand the full process end to end, and I had some first-hand experience of okay, what industry is, how things work. And after that, in final year of my college, I could get placement in 3 to 4 companies, and I was one of those bright student in the college, um, and I had options to various industries, starting from chemical, automotive, um, car manufacturing. So 3 to 4 various industries, I had an opportunity, but I already had an exposure to automotive in my college internship, so I chose another industry, which was a chemical industry. And another reason for me choosing my first company, which was Armacell India Private Limited, was that it was a mid-sized company. So if you get into a very large scale, big size company, the things moves very slower, and you don't have good exposure across various departments. So when a small size company is there, the manufacturing, the sales, the logistics, it's a very close collaboration that happens in a small scale industry. So I chose this Amasel India Private Limited, my first company, and I was a graduate engineer trainee there as a cross-functional trainee. So for a 1 year program, they would move us across different functions. So I started with production, then quality, and then maintenance, logistics, marketing. So I moved across different functions, and I had a plan eventually to get into the production. Being a mechanical engineer, that was my plan, and I loved machines. So those were my first love, and I wanted to be there. But suddenly, what happened that one of our team member from supply chain, who was a demand planner, she left the organization all of a sudden, and that was an year-end high sales target month time. It was Q4, and company couldn't find equal replacement which would replace her, and then they thought of an internal replacement, and I was there as a graduate engineer trainee. I was already performing well. My project was good, and the company put the bet on me, the trust on me, and gave me that opportunity that as a part of a cross-functional training program, can you also move in for some time as a demand planner role. So I moved in as a demand planner. My cross-functional training program was stopped for some time, and for 6 months, I was told to play this role of demand planner, and that was my first exposure. So it was not a planned journey from mechanical engineering to demand planner role. It was an opportunistic opportunity that came in front of me, and I went in to explore as a part of my cross-functional training program. I went in and It was a really good experience, and eventually I did really well as the demand planner in the team, in the organization, and all the senior leadership were impressed by that, and they expressed their desire for me to continue in that same role. And likewise, I also liked the position, the exposure that I got on that role, and I gave a green signal, and that's where my journey of demand planner started. So it's not that I chose supply chain and demand planning role. By destiny, supply chain chose me, and that's how I'm here as a demand planner. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting because you built your foundation over several industries. Yeah. So my next question is, what motivated you to transition into supply chain and forecasting roles?
Yes, so really a good question, and this question was there in my mind for since long time. When I had to take that decision, as I mentioned, I was a cross-functional trainee, and I was already there in the company for 1.5 years, and I was just moving around different functions, and I was eventually at a demand planning role, and I had to take this decision, okay, whether I should continue as a demand planner or whether I should be moving back to my mechanical engineering roles. So my company provided options to me that I could go back in production, manufacturing, or continue in supply chain role. So this question was with me for quite some time. I was sleeping over this, and I have to take the decision. And it was really confusing for me as well because being a mechanical engineer, I have spent 4 years with the machines. I love machines, and all my life I wanted to be, around the machines and manufacturing. But suddenly this demand planning came, and it was a bit difficult for me as well. But what I liked as a supply chain, and that's the key thing why I continued and decided to be a demand planner, is that supply chain as a function is the center of the stage.
Mhm,
So being in supply chain, you also know what product development is developing. You also know what issues are happening in logistics. You also know which raw material is into the shortage, which product we are selling. So you are in the center of the stage. You are attention. You get attention from everyone. You have a good exposure and you foresee full business. So
mhm,
you are not isolated into one corner. Suppose you are if I talk about a quality function, so quality guy doesn't know, okay, what's the customer doing, what kind of sales is happening there in a particular region. So this was my one of the top reason and the reason to choose supply chain, because it gave me a widespread experience, exposure, interacting with different functions. So day in and day out, I have meetings with my finance, talking about, okay, cutting on my inventory. I'm interacting with manufacturing, talking about, okay, how we can optimize the production schedules. With logistics, okay, how we can we can tone down the last week high sales and bring some sales in the first week, and their workload reduces. So I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere throughout different functions. I know everything. So that exposure, that knowledge, that was something that I really appreciated, and was and this was I was something good at communicating, managing conflicts, interacting with different people. So this was something was there with me, which I didn't find in manufacturing. So I was alone with the machines. Machines don't talk back. So it was kind of not so much exciting the way it seems into the AC classroom of your college in the books. So it was not so much exciting to me. And eventually, then I decided, okay, supply chain is where I should go ahead and take my career also, and not just um, geographically also. When I see the supply chain gave me a global exposure as well. So being a manufacturing, I was only interacting with the local teams, local team members. And when I shifted to supply chain, I could see, okay, there is an opportunity where I do interact with the global team members, understanding the business, understanding the challenges. So scope widened. So I was not limited to one manufacturing plant. Okay, Akshay, you are dedicated to India manufacturing plant. No, I got exposure beyond the geographical locations where I work. So I was interacting with demand planners across globally, understanding their challenges, business. So good exposure. Uh, Center of the stage, a lot of attention is something that kept me into the supply chain. I continued to be there. Yeah.
Okay. Could you describe a typical day or week in your role?
Yeah, a difficult day is the day when there is no problem. Uh, where I would say every day as a demand planner or in demand planning, every day is a new challenge, and there was always something and somewhere happening. And post COVID, we have seen the market has been, or the world has been very volatile. These days also there is the war that is happening, then the
Mm,
COVID that came, and so there is always some another challenge that keeps on happening,
mm,
and dealing with supply shortages, dealing with customer not giving the payment, dealing with our internal manufacturing issues, the quality issues, inventory stockouts, dealing with an inaccurate forecast. So there are multiple challenges which a supply chain professional has to interact with. It has to be very resilient, robust framework that we work with, and we have to be really quick with whatever resources, time, analysis, scenario planning. Considering everything, we have to be really reactive at times, take quick decisions so that the customer doesn't suffer, we don't have the order losses, the business doesn't suffer. So multiple challenges are there throughout the supply chain that we keep on working with, being reactive, being on our toes. Is that's what a daily problem looks like into any supply chain professionals.
okay. What are your main responsibilities within demand planning team?
Yeah. So I'm as of now I'm into demand forecasting. So plan demand team is divided into two teams. One is demand planning, one is demand forecasting. So I'm part of a demand forecasting team at AkzoNobel, and I mostly look into the Asia region. And here I interact with multiple countries, understand their business, and give them and generate them a reliable forecast, a statistical forecast, and that then forecast is henceforward given to the demand planning team, and a final uh, demand plan demand plan is formed. So this is on a high level what my role looks like.
Okay. What forecasting tools and systems do you most frequently use?
Yeah. So talking about different tools. So I generally work with an OMP, which is an ERP tool, and for different organization, you will find different tools like Anaplan is there, O9 is there, Canaxis is there. So this ERP tool may vary from different companies, different organizations. I have worked on those different tools as well. Along with that, so ERP tools will certainly have some limitation because they are designed to be a centralized planning tool. So along with that, I also take help with Python, Power BI when there is big data, or I need to do some deep analysis, or when the output given by the centralized planning tool are not sufficient or they are not up to the mark. So probably get into Python, uh, get code and develop my own module, develop my own model, and generate the output the way it's expected. So basically, ERP tool, which vary across different organization. Secondly, then the Python or R. So I prefer Python, but I see also professionals using Python R also. And thirdly, it's advanced Excel also is it's quite handy as a supply chain professional is what I see.
I have a personal question.
Yeah.
What tools do you think students should focus on first? Like if they're trying to enter the same field as you are in?
Yes. So what they should focus, what skill they should focus. So starting with the first is the Tool knowledge. The tool fluency is the first which I will recommend. So understanding the ERP tool as a generic thing first. Okay, how a ERP tool works. So when you get into a different organization, they will have different ERP tools. So you should have that fluency, that ability to understand the tool and get the right output. Understand in the tool how different modules interact with it.
Mm-hmm.
So ERP tool will have an inventory module. It will have a forecasting module. It
Mm-hmm.
will have something for procurement. So how these different modules are interacting with it, how is the architecture, how they are connected. So understanding the ERP tool is the first and the foremost need that would help somebody to become a demand planner or come into statistical forecasting. Secondly is learning data science and analytics, because the time has gone where we have very little data now. Everybody, all companies preserving their data, and we have huge chunk of data, and we need to analyze them. Handling big data is certainly a challenge, and one of the expectation from the supply chain professional, or especially my role, is to get into data, bring out deeper insights, what is predict things using those data. So data science skills and AI skills is what I will recommend. Secondly, after the tool, uh, then third important thing is to learn the communication,
Mm-hmm.
the art of communication. Reason being, so once you have the forecast, once you have analyzed the data, your important role is to influence the decision of your stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a supply chain team or supply planning team or demand planner who will eventually take a final decision. And their decision is based upon their experience, what they perceive, how they are seeing things happening. But what we perceive and what data says, these are two different things. And we need to take decision based upon the data. And we should have that skill to convince our stakeholders, okay, this is the right decision based upon what data says. And since they are from business background, you have the data science background, you have to bridge that gap.
Okay.
So you have to explain them in their language. They would definitely ask challenging questions. They will challenge the forecast. They will challenge your decision and prediction. But you need to have that ability to communicate them well, to convince them, to influence them to take the right decision. So I would say the communication is the third thing that you would need. Fourth, so far we have discussed, first is ERP tool efficiency, the tool knowledge you should have. Second is data science. Third, I told communication. Fourth, I will recommend is having the knowledge of business.
Okay.
Okay, what industry you're into. Like I'm into paints right now. Then there is semiconductor industry. So every industry have their own challenges and how they work. There is FMCG, there is automotive. So one needs to have the understanding of the industry first, and second, their own business. So what is my company's mission and vision, how my company sees its growth in a long term. So understanding the business, understanding the industry. So these are three four key skills which any demand planner, any stat forecast analyst or demand forecasting guy should have. So I'll just summarize. The first is the ERP tool, the
Mm-hmm.
proficiency, the fluency in the ERP tool, understanding the architecture, how different functions and modules department function within that ERP tool. Secondly is having the data science, analytical skills, handling the big data with Power BI, with Excel, Python. That is the second. Third is communication. So communication, because you would be interacting with different functions and you would be influencing their decision, you would be challenging their decision, and they would be challenging your decision. So there is a lot of interaction that will happen with the stakeholders, with different demand planning, different functions within supply chain, and even outside supply chain you will interact. So communication is a key skill that I would really endorse somebody to who's planning to come into this function. And uh, lastly, understanding the business,
Mm-hmm.
understanding the industry, how it's functioning, how it correlates, understanding the strategic plan of the company. So these are three four things one should really work upon to come into, to grow into, and excel into in this role.
What are the
Yeah.
biggest challenges in managing demand across multiple countries?
Yeah. So so first half of my career, I was only working as a demand planner for one particular country.
Hmm.
And second half of my career, I suddenly shifted to a demand planning role where I have been handling multiple countries. Like as of now, in my current role, I interact with around 7 to 8 uh, different countries, and it's certainly a challenge to interact with different functions, different companies to to generate a reliable forecast. So talking about what are the challenges, first is, and this is the most important and critical one, is information flow. Yeah. So I have experienced both world. I have experience as a demand planner where I was part of one country and I was with that supply chain, and I currently am in a global role where I work with multiple countries. So I have seen both sides. So information flow is the first challenge which I perceive and experience. So when I was part of a local team, so I would sit in the office and the purchase team is right next to me, the inventory team is right next to me, the customer support team is right next to me. So we are into the same campus. We I know what's happening. So what's different things are happening in my company, in supply chain, what is the current challenges. So collaboration is real fast, the information flows real fast. Any issue that's happening in logistics, I would be updated within a day. But when you're sitting remotely in different part of the world and your supply chain is into different part of the world. So currently I sit in India, but I generate forecast for, or I'm part of the team for Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, PNG, Singapore. So these are different countries I handle. So what's happening there? The flow of information is it's first a lot filtered. Secondly, it's very slow also by the time it reaches me. So it's a major challenge. Uh, even within the supply chain function, even if it's situated locally, there is always a tendency for functions to work in silos.
Hmm.
They are reluctant to share some information with different functions. They want to keep certain information with them. Not that they do it purposefully. It's just that they don't want to prioritize. They don't find any relevance in that. So there is already, even if there is a one supply chain locally, there is this challenge of departments functions working in silos. They work their own way. Okay, inventory guy is only working with, okay, I have to have minimum inventory, but the demand planning guy, he wants to have zero shortages into the zero shortages of inventory so that customer order doesn't suffer. So everybody works in their own way. So already, even within a local supply chain team, this challenge is there. But when it gets global, so first level challenges, okay, within supply chain, they would try to work in silos, and there is second level challenge that happens, that I sit in a different place. So information flow is really slow, and it's filtered, and limited information comes to me. So that's a biggest challenge. So to deal with it, I have to regularly interact with them, and I have to ask the right questions. So right question I need to ask, because they may assume things that I know. They may assume things that, okay, this information is not relevant for Akshay. It's not really needed to pass that information uh, to the demand forecasting team or demand planning team. But in this case, I have to be an expert to ask the right questions upfront, even if they don't update me. So this is the first challenge: flow of information, slow, limited, filtered. That's first. Second is, of course, the very practical challenge is the time zone barrier, the language barrier that comes to interact with a person who sits at a different location. So when there is a time zone barrier, it's only a few hours that overlaps, and in that few hours, we have to collaborate, interact, share information, do our analysis, take decisions. So it's a limited time we have, right? And because of which, sometimes the decision making slows down. Okay, if the other person if I have to take certain decision, I have to also take the confirmation from my team member, and he has already left because he works from a different time zone.
Okay.
So in such cases also, I need to wait and the decision get postponed to the next day. Sometimes they have their different holiday calendar. We have our different holiday calendar. So this challenges are there. Then there is sometimes language barrier. Certain Asian countries, they still don't accept, not so much accepting English as a way of communication. And there are countries which prefer to work in their local language. Sometimes when interacting, there are challenges, and at times I have to take a translator with me in meetings. Okay, that he would translate my English. Okay, and then he will speak, then they will speak, then he will translate things back to me. So things become slower, and the open communication sometimes doesn't happen. And this is to the extent I have seen team members. So even the files and Excel which they have in their own language. They don't have Excels and files, documents in English language. They would have it in their local language. So this is certainly a challenge. No matter how much globalization has happened and English is popular throughout the world, but this challenge still exists.
Mm.
So language barrier and time zone barrier is, I would say, is the second most challenging thing. To add it further, from my perspective, so this is what exists from the other end. From my perspective, when I see, so for me, it's a lot of information to process. So when I sit in India, I know what's happening in India. Currently, because of the war, okay, how much fuel prices has gone up? I know it's
Yeah.
5%. So I just know what's happening in the economy, what new government has taken some initiatives, taking some decision, the new schemes of the government. So I know what's happening in my economy, my country, and what impact that's happening on my supply chain. But when it's global roles, I have to be updated. Okay, what's happening? So this recent war,
Mm.
uh, Sri Lanka prices, fuel prices has gone up by 50%, which is a neighbor country. So I was just interacting with them, and they are highly impacted by, because they are a small economy, and the such geopolitical tension impacts them a lot compared to India. So India is not so much impacted so far, but though there is an impact.
Yeah.
So different countries, different economies, there are different consumer behavior. They go through different phases. Like some countries I work with, they are in a phase where the economy is really slow, and we are into paints industry, and customer are no more prioritizing the paints. Yeah,
Mm.
so paints is luxury for them. They want to prioritize the essential things for now: education, healthcare, foods, grocery. So currently, the phase of their economy is really slow. So they are not spending on these luxurious things. So that way, different countries work differently. They will have different, specifically from demand planning point of view. So in India, the high sale month would be in Diwali, November, December, where is the festive month for India.
Mhm.
Malaysia will have its own festive months where the sales will go high. China will have its own festive months. So different countries have their different festivals, different close down. So the calendar itself is different. Somewhere it's a lunar calendar, somewhere it's not. So these challenges are also there, where me as a demand planner, I have to very closely work with supply chain, stay updated with what's happening in their country. So so far I have been keeping myself updated with only local Indian news. But ever since I have moved into this global role, I have to be sometimes be in touch. Okay, what's happening with this country where I work with? Okay, is there any issue? How their GDP is doing, how the economy is doing. So regularly I stay updated with, okay, what's happening there. Sometimes I have need to get into an informal discussion with the supply chain team. Okay, how are things? Are there any local issues also within the company? Okay, not just forget about just about the national level. Even the locally, sometimes different geographical locations of the same company will
Mhm.
have a different vision of how they look at things. Like for example, certain countries which I work with, they're very open with this data science. So forecasting is basically data science, and we with our machine learning models and data science model, we
Mm,
generate the statistical forecast. Some countries, and they are open with this new change. Okay, let's go ahead. We like statistical forecasts. Okay, we accept this new change that is happening, that is coming with this data-driven decision. But some countries are still not open for that. They still would like to work with old traditional methods
mm,
of forecasting. They trust their Excels more than my forecasting model. They have more trust on their traditional methods where the sales is giving the forecast, not data science. A supply chain data scientist like me is giving a forecast. So they still prefer the old traditional ways, and they still have challenges accepting us. And there are some countries, they are also ahead of us. So we see different phases of maturity
mhm,
of accepting the data science collaboration in supply chain. So my role is all about data science collaboration in supply chain. So demand planning and demand forecasting. Earlier in supply chain, that would happen only in Excel or some basic forecast that ERP tool is generating. But now these days we have all advanced machine learning models that are there that generate the statistical forecast. So we are quite new roles, new functions in supply chain that use data science and AI to predict, to take decision. But I see some geographical locations, some countries whom I interact with, they are still rigid with their old ways of working. They don't want to accept, or they have their own fears of using the forecast or the predictions, the scenario plannings we do with the data. So that's a different level of maturity. Maturity is there across different countries, so we need to deal with them in that way. So a country which is not yet mature, we have to first uh, educate them. Okay, what data science is. We need to showcase them the results that we have already achieved across the different countries. Show them, generate the confidence, and eventually help them to mature and come to a advanced stage of forecasting. These are few challenges which comes to top of my head. So to summarize, first is the information flow, which is slow, limited, filtered. So that's the challenge. If I don't have the information, okay, how will I generate the plan? How will I generate the forecast? Second is the language barrier, the time zone barrier. Thirdly, I talked about different countries, different conditions, different regulations, different holidays, different consumer behavior. So that I need to learn, stay updated. Okay, what's happening in different countries?
mhm.
And lastly, what I spoke is the maturity. So different countries are at a different level of maturity. No matter if my company globally decides, okay, let's launch AI in supply chain, but everybody will have their own resistance based upon their local maturity of accepting the global decisions of the countries. So these are the few challenges which I face in my global role.
Okay. So, how do you handle uncertainties and unexpected disturbances in the supply chain while maintaining accurate forecasting?
Yeah, that's again a good question. So if you ask me, so pre-COVID era, and I remember that supply chain and the market was not so much fluctuating back then. Post-COVID era, I see there is a lot of volatility into the market. Consumer behavior shifts very fast. There is a lot of geopolitical tension. Um, a lot of changes keeps on happening on a national level also. So market is a lot volatile, and supply chain have realized this, that this is certainly is going to be a part of our life, to handling certain uncertainty, handling disruptions. This has become part of life, and even companies have started to understand that this uncertainty and disruption is not going anytime sooner. It's just increasing day by day with the customer pattern changing so fast, and the global disruption, geopolitical tension, oil prices, everything being so volatile. So there are different ways in which, in general, the supply chain tackles this, which I have seen in my experience across different roles and different functions in different companies. So to talk about the first and foremost way is to handling with any disruption or any uncertainty with that happens is a cross-functional collaboration. That's the first step anyone should do. Okay, if any issue has happened, if there is a supply shortage or there is a logistic issue, uh, anything that's happening. So first is from foremost is a cross-functional collaboration
Mm-hmm.
between sales, operation, procurement, logistic. Everyone should come together and discuss, okay, what's the issue, how we can resolve this, what are the steps that should be taken. So that is first and foremost step. Second, so after collaboration, second is the scenario planning that generally companies can do, or which I have seen. That once you identified the problem and you have all possible knowledge, information with you after interacting with different functions. Second is scenario planning. So in these days, the ERP tools also come with the scenario planning. So you can give scenarios to the tool. Okay, this is the situation, and what can be the best simulated way out of this. Okay, with minimum uh, customer suffering, with order shortages, with uh, minimum would be the right word, with optimum uh, cost that company has to incur, with optimizing the lead time. So considering all those different factors, different scenarios can be run simulated, and those scenarios output would be with can be presented with senior leadership team. Okay, as a supply chain perspective, after interacting with different function, you have those scenarios with you, and you present those scenarios with the senior leadership and tell them, okay, we have this scenario, we have this disruption, and in this scenario we can do A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
If we do this A, this would be the trade-off. This would what we gain. This would what we lose. If we do B, this is what we achieve. This what we have to risk it, and this is what we lose. So all the scenarios A, B, C, we discuss those scenarios
Mm-hmm.
and discuss that with the senior leadership, and there can be a final decision, and company can collectively, the senior leaders can collectively take a call. Okay, this is what we want to do in this situation. Now, once you have collaboration, you have done the planning, then the third step is to adjust the rolling forecast. So in my role, we generate the forecast. So traditionally, uh, there have been ways of working where they fix the forecast for full year,
Mm-hmm.
or for next 2 years, 3 years, or 3 months, 1 quarter. But now with this, seeing the market, which is very much volatile, and there is a lot of disruptions and uncertainty, we need to be slightly flexible with those forecasts and update those forecasts frequently, and have a rolling forecast instead of having a fixed forecast. So on rolling basis, you can update that forecast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, sometime back you have asked me this question, okay, how a day look likes into a demand planner's role. So this is something what we do. Uh, First week of our role is understanding what happened last month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how was the sales? What reception happened? Were there any issues? So collect all the information in the first week, and in second week, we do all our analysis, do the scenario planning, understand, and we update the rolling forecast. That's what our second week is all about. So first is understanding what has happened in the first week. Second is updating the rolling forecast. Third week, we communicate that forecast with to the stakeholders. Okay, this is the latest forecast.
Mm-hmm.
Why it has changed? How much it has changed? What was before? What is now? How much adjustment has been there? How much volume has changed? So we need to communicate this updated rolling forecast